Hi, I'm Miles from Apollo Technology, and today I'm going to be taking you through Google G Suite for Education. We're going to be covering the key Google apps, and we're also going to be covering how to use these apps to deliver blended learning and also distance learning to your pupils in your school. So first thing is I just want to cover the key apps. So starting from the left, we've got Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, and Google Forms. These are what I call our creation apps. On the right, we've got Google Calendar, Google Meet, and Google Drive. These are our collaboration tools. And then smack bang in the middle, we've got Google Classroom, which is our central hub for our pupils and for our teachers to bring all these apps together and give us one nice location to navigate and push out work and work with our classroom. Now, before I get started, there is no sort of secret that Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint are sort of what people are going to be more familiar with because they've been around and they local install and they tend to be an industry standard. But when we look at the Google counterparts, Docs, Sheets, and Slides, these all look very similar. These have been designed in a way that when you go into these apps, you feel quite familiar with them and they're quite intuitive. So I'm going to take it now and get us logged into Google. So the first thing we need to do is go to google.com. And in the top right, we'll see the little sign in box. And we can simply click that. Sign in with our school email, Google G Suite email account and password. Once signed in, this will then take you through and you'll see your little initial in the top right, and you'll see these 9 tiles will now include all of the Google apps. You'll see on here there's more than what I've just covered, but today we're just going to be covering the key ones to get you up and running with Google G Suite. So I'm going to go ahead now and hop into Google Docs and show you how this looks. So I'm in a blank document inside of Google Docs here, and you'll see that this looks very familiar to what we're used to with Microsoft Word. The toolbar across the top is quite familiar and has the usual formatting tools that we're used to. Our font size, bold, underlined, for example. But there's a couple extra buttons on here that we need to cover and do a couple extra things. Now, it's worth saying that obviously Google Docs is a cloud-based piece of software. Now, this means that every time I'm typing in this document, you can see here in the top right, this is automatically saving. So I don't need to worry about physically clicking save and worrying that I've saved my documents. This is all happening in real time as I'm typing in the document and saving it for me. This is also great if I accidentally close the browser and forget to click save. We don't have to worry because it's automatically saved for us. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this document a title. We'll call it test for this occasion. Now, you'll see in the top right here, we have the share button. Now, I use a common example normally when talking about sharing is that one teacher may send a document to one of their colleagues. They will then ask that colleague to make some changes to it and send them back to them. This instantly created a minimum of 3 copies of that document. If we talk about this on a larger scale being shared with more teachers, we could quite easily end up with 25 copies of the same document very, very quickly. This is going to use more storage on your local server. It's also going to make it very difficult to then work out which is the current or most up-to-date version of that document. Now, what we can do with Google Docs or Slides or PowerPoint or any of the Google apps is we can hit this little share button in the top here. Now, I can pick to share this with a direct person's email address. If I know the email address of the person I want to share it with, let's use the support email here. And you'll see now that I've got a space to write a little message. So, hi guys, this is the document I need your input on. And I could then just click send straight away and this would go off to them. However, there's one thing we need to do before we do that. We need to look at the permissions in the top right. Here we've got 3 levels of permission. Editor, which will give them full editorial rights over my document, meaning they can change or edit anything in there. Commenter, which means that they can add comments, which I'll cover in a second. Or viewer, which means they can purely just view the document. Now, depending on who you're sending this to and what you want them to do with it will dictate what level of permission you want. In this case, I'm going to use editor. And I can just hit send, and that document is now shared with them, and they will get an email notification to say that I've shared a document with them that they can edit. However, we may want to share this outside of an email address. We can do this using this get link share option down here below. If I just click this change button, again, I've got some permissions here that I can change. On the drop down here, I've got restricted, so only people that I've approved or sent an email address can access this to, or have already got access to this document can access. Apollo technology, which means only people inside of our organization or inside of your school's organization will be able to access this document. Or anyone with the link, which means that anyone who has access to this link can access this document. Again, I've then got the same 3 permissions I can change: viewer, commenter, and editor. All do exactly the same. And then I simply can copy this link and share this to whoever I want to through whatever platform, and they can then come in and access this document via that link. This is great if you wanted to put a newsletter created in Google Docs on your school website. You'd obviously set this as a viewer permission here, copy the link, and put this as a hyperlink on your school website. Or if you wanted to share a document via Facebook or another platform, then you could use this copy link to share this document via that platform. So we've shared our document with our teaching staff. They've then gone off and made some changes to the document. And obviously we already know that Google Docs is automatically saving. So every time they make a change, it's automatically save that change. However, we get our document back and it's completely different to how we first sent it off, and we need to get back to the original version. That's easily done. Through Google Docs, we have what we call version history. So under File here, we have version history, and we can click See Version History. Obviously, I've only made 2 changes to this document, but we can see here the changes as they've been made, and these are named. So if I was coming in to another document from another member of staff, you'd see my name and the changes that I've made. So we can flick through these versions to get the document back to where we originally wanted it to, or see the changes that each member of staff or colleague has made to this document. Ticking this little show changes box here will show the actual live changes in the left pane here as we click on the different versions. On these 3 little dots, you'll also see that we can name this version or make a copy. We may want to name a version template, which is the original version, or we may want to make a copy and fork this document off into 2 separate documents before a change was made or after a change was made to make 2 copies. Another little feature that we spoke about a second ago is that commenter permission. So whenever I type in text in here and highlight it, you'll see this little speech bubble appears on the left-hand side. And it says add comment. This is a great way for giving feedback to pupils on their documents, or if you're working with other colleagues in a way of giving information or giving feedback on the document without having to change the actual body of the text on the document. So for example here, I could put, if this was my pupil's document, hi, really good start, keep it up. And then I could actually tag one of my TAs or another staff or another classroom teacher if I wanted them to see this comment or I wanted them to see this. So I'm going to use support again, and I'm going to go add support. And I can click this comment. We can now see that I've commented and I've tagged an email address in there, and they will get a notification that I've commented on this document. They will also have the ability then to reply and keep and open up a channel of communication on the side of this document. This is a really nice way to give feedback on a document, and we can add as many of these comments as we want. So if we're collaborating with staff, again, it's a really nice way to write all over a document without having to change the body of the text. Now I'm just going to open up Google Sheets. And you'll see this looks very familiar. Again, we've got our standard toolbar with our formulas, fonts, font sizes, for example. We have that version history in here. And we also have that share button exactly the same. And if we go into Google Slides, we'll see again, very familiar, looking like our PowerPoint that we're used to, with our comment features and our share button and our version history as well. So that's Google Docs, Google Slides, and Google Sheets. The key bits to take from this is sharing the document. It's automatically saving because it's a cloud piece of software, and also version history, which allows us to go back through previous versions of a document. Now, all of these documents are saving back to what we call Google Drive, which is our cloud storage area. I'm going to open up my Google Drive here now, and you'll see that I've got my drive. We can use this new button here to upload files, so individual files that we want to upload to Google Drive. It may be historic files that we've got on our on-site server, or folder upload if we want to do a bulk upload of a whole specific folder. It may be that you want to take your whole your whole folder from your drive straight up to here and have it in Google Drive for you. Nice and easy to do. We've also got the ability to create folders, the same as we would in any other network share, to organize this and make this easier to see and easier to manage and organize. We also have shared drives. We'd recommend as a school that you replicate some of the shared drives that you already have on your network server. And this is a really nice way of giving permission to documents without having to share them. So anything that's inside of this drive, members will be able to access, and we can manage members here. When managing members, we have again different permissions. We have manager, which is the top tier. They can manage people, they can add settings, and they can change basically everything in the drive. We have content manager who can add, edit, and move and delete files. We have a contributor that can add and edit files. We have a commenter, which is the same permissions we had before. They can view files and comment on them. Or we have the lowest permission level, which is just viewer, where they can just go in and purely just view the files in this drive. This can be an easier way of sharing multiple files at once and managing permissions like we would on the network share so people can access it. We also recommend that you upload as much as possible to here so it makes it easier to access when using things like Google Classroom. So think about key resources that you're going to need, and that means that we can access these via Google Drive nice and easily on multiple devices that we use or work on. One key folder I want to point out in here is Classroom. Google Classroom will automatically create you a folder. You don't need to worry about creating this folder, you just need to know where it is. So locating this folder is important because every time we create something in Google Classroom, it will create it in here for us automatically. So this is our storage for everything we do in Google Classroom. It's key that we know that this is here and it's a good place that we can come back to. So that covers Docs, Sheets and Slides, and also Drive. The next one I want to sort of go into is Google Meet. It's worth saying that with all Google apps, you can type the docs.google.com to access them, their name, .google.com, to access them really quickly by just typing in the bar. Or of course, we can go back to those 9 tiles on google.com to access any of the specific apps we want. When going to Google Meet, we'll be first confronted with this page. We will see any meetings that we've got scheduled for later in the day. And we'll also have the ability to join or start a meeting. If we click join or start a meeting, we can call our meeting whatever we want. So we could call this, I'm going to call this one test. Or we can put the meeting code that we've been given straight into here and join a meeting if we're joining off a meeting code. I'll show you how to schedule Google Meetings in a second using Calendar. But first of all, let's go into Meet and look at the features that we have in here. So I'm going to go to test. I've named my Google Meeting. I'm going to hop straight in. We have our camera and our microphone in our pre-lobby that we can set up before we go in so we can make sure our audio is nice and clear. If we go into settings, we can set our microphone and speakers here. And we can also do a quick test to see that these are working to ensure that when we join the Google Meet, everything is working as we expect it to. We've also got this new feature here, which is allowing us to turn on background blur. So if you are teaching from home and you want to blur out the background, you can just tick this one and put it on for you. Now I'm going to click Join Now and go straight into this meeting. On creating a Google Meet for the first time, you will get given the join in info straight away, which is this information here. Anyone you share this link with will be able to click it and join this Google meeting. If they're not a member of your organization or haven't signed in, it will ask you to approve these members before they can join the Google Meet. You can also join via phone by dialing the number and entering the PIN afterwards. And you can quite quickly click copy join-in info, which will copy this to your clipboard, and you can paste this into any email or message to get this to the people that you want to join the meeting. We can also click the Add People button here, and we can enter some email addresses of the people that we want to be able to connect to our meeting. Now, Google Meet, I'm going to talk about now from a blended and a distance learning point of view. So if we cover blended learning, the scenario would be that we've got 25 pupils in our classroom, and we've got 3 that have had to isolate and stay at home. So it's being able to teach our lesson in the classroom as normal, and then also be able to deliver that lesson to pupils outside of the classroom or at home. And that's quite simple. We go into our classroom in the morning before we start our lesson, and we open up our Google Meet. We add the pupils that we want to by either sending them Google Meet link, or they can click the link via Classroom, which I'll cover later on in this video. Or we can add their email address and they'll get a notification to join this meeting. Once we're joined, we can then hit Present Now. Now we've got 3 different options in Present Now. You've got Entire Screen, which will present anything on your screen as you open and close it. We have a window, which means you can open a specific window. So if you're using Smart Notebook or Active Inspire, you can select just Smart Notebook to be casted or presented to the Google Meet, or a specific Chrome tab. And these are best for video and animation. So if you wanted to show a YouTube video in the Google Meet, you could go use Chrome tab and select a specific tab with the video on. And this works best for this. All I say about using the entire screen is if you are going to present your entire screen, then ensure that you don't have anything on your screen that you don't want anyone in the Google Meet to see. So if you've got Sims or your personal emails open or your school emails open, then you don't want to use potentially the entire screen because you risk opening those and showing those to everyone in the Google Meet. A window or a Chrome tab will confine or limit what is actually shown in the presentation. However, if you're in full teaching mode and you're going to be switching between multiple windows during your lesson, go for entire screen. So for this example, I'm going to use entire screen, and I'm going to select screen 2 here to present. Now anything that's on screen 2 now, or on my screen, will now present to everyone in the Google Meet. So back to our blended learning example, I can have my Active Inspire or my software or my view board on the screen, and I can be presenting and teaching to my lesson to all my pupils in my classroom. And my ones at home can see the board, they can hear me, and they can also see me. Which means it's a really easy way of not disrupting your current lessons too much, but still being able to deliver teaching outside of the classroom. Now there's a couple extra tools that we can use inside of here to make this a little bit easier for us. Turning on captions will turn my speech to text as I talk in real time. Now this is fairly accurate, and it will help transcribe conversations if you have multiple people talking at once. This is also good with anyone with learning difficulties because they may find reading what I'm saying easier than listening to me speaking. A couple other features that we have in here is we have our people where we can manage people. We're able to click on people, mute them, and also remove them from the room if needed. This is very useful if you're going to use Google Meet to do a parents' evening, for example, and you want to ensure that the parent is removed before speaking to another parent, then you can do that. We have the chat function, which allows our pupils or anyone in the room to send a message. From working with teachers in the past, I find that muting your pupils to start with and allowing them to type into the chat box to be able to talk is a really nice way of engaging with them without getting overridden by too many conversations happening at once. So mute your pupils and then give them the ability to talk in chat so they can message you. Google Meets can also be recorded if recording has been turned on for your organization. And you have a record button here that you can click to record your Google Meet. So if you're delivering a lesson that's got to go to 2 pupils, but they're limited on devices, for example, or they're not able to access that Google Meet at that time, then you can then record it and share that with them later. So it's a really nice way of making this accessible for other pupils that may not be able to view this live or want to view it at a later date. Another bit I want to cover is changing layout. Under change layout, we have several different options. The most comfortable view you will probably find is tiled, which will give a tiled window showing all of our cameras of all of the people in the chat at once. This is a really easy way to see multiple people if you've got a large meet going on, and you can see who's talking by their icon being indicated of movement of sound. Spotlight will move around depending on who is talking, and sidebar will show a main screen camera and then a list of the cameras down the side. We can use the slider here to set the amount of tiles we want to see. So if we're working with 25 people in our class, then we'd set this to 30 to give us a nice even spread of all the cameras across the screen. Now, if we go into Google Meet and how to schedule this for a future meeting, we need to use Google Calendar. Again, accessible via the 9 tiles or by simply typing calendar.google.com. Once in here, if I go to put an appointment in, if we do one for tomorrow, I can add a title of, let's go for G Suite training. And I can quickly click this Add Google Meet link here. That means that anyone I add to this meeting will get an invitation to Google Meet with a link that they can click through the calendar notification, making it really easy for us to schedule Google Meets for the future and also distributing the link all in one click of a button. So we simply go to Calendar, click the date and the time that we want. This can then be adjusted in the top bar if you've clicked this wrong when coming in. We click the Add Google Meet Conference in. We add our guests in our box here and then press Save. And this will send this out to everyone inside of our organization or everyone that we've emailed the link to, and they will get a Google Meet link just to come straight into that Google Meet, and they'll be able to join you nice and easily. There is another way that we can ask Google and join Google Meet, and that is through Google Classroom, which I'm going to go into now. When going to Google Classroom, you should see your classroom or your classes if you teach multiple classrooms or classes. Each one of these will be populated with the pupils in that class, as well as the correct teachers, if you have multiple teachers during the job share. If you are a primary school and you only teach in one classroom, you should only see one classroom here. However, if you're secondary or middle school, you'll probably see that you'll have multiple classes here as you teach multiple year groups or classes throughout the day. Now I'm going to hop into my classroom here. You'd hop into whichever one you want to specifically post work for, or whichever one you're due to be meeting with or working with at the time. So when we first go into a classroom, this is the screen we're confronted with. We've got our stream, which is an activity feed of everything that's happened in our classroom, as and when it's happened. We have our title box here, which we can select a theme on and customize this to suit our lesson. So if we're a maths or science teacher, we could pick a maths or science theme, or we could upload a specific photo to here. You'll see that I have a Google Meet link here across the top. So this makes it very easy for our pupils to join us via Google Meet. We can direct them to classroom.google.com, get them to sign in, come into their correct classroom, click the Google Meet link, and they'll instantly be joining us in a Google Meet. Any of the configurations that we've done for our schools recently, note that the baseline configuration we've done, it will only allow Google Meet if a teacher is present and you will need to admit your pupils, And on leaving as a teacher, your pupils will be removed from Google Meet as well. This is for a safeguarding point of view. That means that pupils cannot go into Google Meet on their own or unattended. We have an upcoming box here, which will show any work due in soon. And this is the same for teachers and for pupils. I'm in here as a teacher at the moment. We have the ability to share something with our class. So we may put a post on here, say, please join me at Google Meet with the link in the top bar at 9, and they can come in and join us. Or it might be just a funny comment or a nice post that you want to put out to your classroom of things that are happening today, or just general information they may find useful for their learning. Now, there's several types of material that we can post in Google. And if we go to classwork, this is where we can do this from. Clicking the create button will allow us to create several different types of material, questions, quiz assignments, and assignments. But the first thing we really want to do is create a topic. A topic is an organization area that allows us to put specific work into specific topics. It may be that I recommend that the first thing you do is create a topic that is specific just to your classroom. So it's not specific to the water cycle, for example, or animals and plants. It's just your general classroom stuff. And that'll give you a nice area to post stuff that's not related to a specific learning topic, but more of a topic that's just stuff about your classroom. So it might be a link to the school website, for example, or a link to Class Dojo if that's something that you use on a regular basis. And it gives you a nice place to do that from. So I'm going to go ahead now and click topic. And I'm going to do for this one, let's do I don't know if I've done the water cycle before. Let's try this one, water cycle. And you'll now see that I've got an empty topic here. If you don't create topics, your classwork area will end up in a big list of materials and questions and assignments that look like this. And this becomes very difficult for pupils to digest. It becomes very difficult for teachers to manage. When using topics, as you can see down here, we get nice organized areas with everything linked underneath. This is easy for our pupils to pick up, and it's easy for them to go into, and it's also easy for us to manage what work we've got in that topic and what we've set for our pupils. Now I'm going to work through these from bottom to top. The reuse post one here allows us to reuse existing content. So if we've already created content in here, we can click one of these and click reuse. This will then give us the ability to edit this and change it to specifically meet what we want to, how we want to reuse it. So that's the reuse can save us a lot of time on reusing existing material. But let's start with these key sections if you've not created anything in here before. So material. Material is stuff that we want our pupils to view, access, look at, but not necessarily hand in, or there's nothing for them to actually do with this work. This is material that they need to be able to complete their work. So this is information that they need, either YouTube videos, website links, or information sheets or presentations that we want them to view and look through that's going to aid them and help them complete their other work that we've set via time assignments, quizzes, or questions. So I'm going to call this one everything you need to know about the water cycle. I'm going to put in here, please see your resources for the water cycle below. I can now click this add button here, and I've got a few different types of things that I can add. Let's start with a YouTube link. So if I'm a teacher and I've already done the water cycle for quite a few years in my teaching career, and I've already got a YouTube video that I use every time I do it, not a problem at all. Get the URL of that website, paste it into this box and press add. Nice and easy. If, however, it's a new one and we want to search for some videos, we can use this built-in YouTube search here. We can search for water cycle. You can see what comes up. So I can then browse through these videos and find something that meets the material of what I'm looking for. I'm going to use this one here, the water cycle Dr. Barnett's show. I'll just double click it or press the add button, and we can now see that that's added. I could go on again and add more YouTube videos, but I'm going to go through different types here. So I'm going to do a file. Now, it may be that your file that you need, your water cycle worksheet, isn't yet on Google Drive. Not a problem at all. You can click the upload, click browse, select your file and upload it onto Drive, and that'll add it automatically straight into here. Or you can drag the file and drop it into this area here, and that'll do exactly the same. I'm going to go to recent, and I'm going to pick this test sheet here, and we can imagine that that is a water cycle fact sheet or presentation or document showing everything about the water cycle. It may even be a PDF. The next type we can add is a link. So this may be, we can copy and paste this in, but we could just go to the water for this example. Don't know if the watercycle.com exists, but we can press add. And that'll add that website there for us. And we can go on and on and on and add as many as we want. We've also got a handy create button here. So if we get to this stage and we think, oh, I need to create a presentation for the water cycle, we can just hit create, click slides, and create a water cycle presentation that will automatically add it to here for our pupils to access. Now, once we've finished adding all the material that we want for our subject or our topic, we can go over to the right-hand side and we can select the topic that this is going to be part of. If you don't select a topic, this will just end up floating in a big list and won't end up in under those categories that we saw a second ago when creating a topic. So we can go water cycle, and that's going to add it to our water cycle topic. Under our all students, this allows us to set differentiation of work. So we can set different work for different pupils. So we can set work for our pupils that have already caught up with their work and they need more work set, or if we're doing split topic between the two in our classroom, we can set it for specific pupils, or we can just click all students here and that'll post it for everyone. On the top bar here next to post, we have a couple extra options. We can schedule, so we can schedule work in advance. If on Monday we're going to be doing the water cycle topic and we don't want this information to go out till then we can click schedule and that'll go out on Monday. This means that we can schedule work from a Friday point afternoon to go out on a Monday without having to post it Monday morning to get that work up there. But in this case, I'm just going to click post now, and this will post this information straight onto my stream. New material, everything you need to know about the water cycle. There's our links that our pupils can easily click and go off to. They can add comments if they need more help or they want extra resources here. And you'll also see under classwork, under water cycle now, that appears nice and neatly. So it's easy for our pupils to find and it's easy for us to manage. So the next one we can add is a question. With a question, we can simply add a short answer or a multiple choice. These are quick, snappy ways of getting instant feedback on the lesson that you're teaching or on the information that you've set. This can give you a really good idea of how pupils are getting on with the work and how much of an understanding they've got of it. Here, I'm going to put, let's just use water cycle question. How does rain fall? And then we can get them to write a short answer, or we may give them some multiple choice options here. We can also use those add buttons that we did on our material to add some additional information. So if we wanted to add a YouTube video, a file, a link, or information to help with this question, we can do that as well. Just the same as we did with our material. Over on the right hand side, again, we've got our ability to differentiate these questions for students. So we may be setting harder questions and not so hard questions for pupils depending on their level. We've got the points In most cases in primary, I suggest that we leave this as unmarked. I will show you later why. And due date, we can set the time that we want this due in for. Again, topic, we can set this as the water cycle. And then we've got a class summary here, so we can tick whether pupils can see the class summary or not, and this will allow them to see whether other pupils have responded to the question or not. If we're asking sort of a mental welfare check to our pupils to see how they were doing, we might not want the other pupils to see the class summary. Again, we've got the ability to schedule, save this as a draft, or instantly just ask this question. So I'm going to click ask. Again, that question will now appear in the stream, and it will also appear under the water cycle. Next one we can add is a quiz assignment. Now, a quiz assignment uses Google Forms. It instantly creates a blank quiz in Google Forms for us here, so we don't have to go to Google Forms, create one, link it back. It makes it nice and easy for us. So I'm going to call this the water cycle pop quiz. We can put some instructions to our pupils here of what they need to do with the quiz. Again, we've got the same tools here on the right. Check plagiarism, which will check this against other documents to make sure that it hasn't been copied or pasted off the internet. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hop into this quiz by clicking the blank quiz. And I'm instantly taking the Google form and my blank quiz, and I can start editing this and changing this as I want. So I can give this a title. I can give it a description. And then I can start adding some questions. We have various types of questions that we can add in here. We've got short answer, which will give us several sentences. Paragraph, which will give us more room to write a more detailed answer. Multiple choice, the same as we covered in our quick question we did a second ago. Check boxes that allow us to do a tick all that apply answer. Drop down, which will allow us to select one from the list below. File upload, which allows us our pupils to upload a file. This can be great to be used if we want pupils to upload a file of an image that they've taken as the answer to the question. A linear scale, so 1 to 5. It may be from the water cycle. How much do you think that global warming is affecting the water cycle, or how much is pollution affecting the water cycle? 1 to 5. We then got a multiple choice grid that puts our multiple choices in a little box rather than a list, and a text box grid, which is like our check boxes, but again in a grid format rather than in a list, and then a date and the time if we want them to put a date and the time into this. Now, upon adding a question, we've got this answer key down here below. Clicking answer key allows us to select what the right answer is, and we can add some answer feedback. So incorrect, please try again, or correct answers. That's great. Well done. Those will then give feedback depending on the answer that the person clicks on this on this answer. We can give these questions points. So if we were going to give the quiz an overall points to score, then we could do this as well. In the palette here at the top, we've got the ability to customize how this quiz looks. So we can change theme colors. We can choose images to make this look more suitable to whatever we're doing. We've got background colors, and then we've also got some font styles. Playful from my primary feedback that I've had is most popular for my primary education schools, but you've got a few there to pick from that suits what you're doing. Now, once we've got our questions added, we've got a couple other bits that we can add down here. We can add titles and descriptions, so we may want to break this into several sections. We can add a title and another description below. We can add an image, really useful if you wanted to add a picture into here and then have a question of tick all that you can see in the image below, or please tell me what you see in the above image. We can then also add a video, and we can also add sections. Now, sections are great for breaking up a big quiz and making it not look so daunting for our pupils. I'm just going to add a couple random questions in here, and I'm going to add just a couple sections for you just to show what this looks like. Now, if I go into preview, you'll really see what these sections look like. You'll see that this is section 1, and then I click next to go through to section 2, next to go through to section 3, and so on until I get to submit. Now this gives us a nice way of breaking down big quizzes into a more interactive feel, that when we go through we get this information back. Now if we go, that basically covers adding questions, adding text, adding images, adding videos, adding sections, customizing this. And you'll see now I just click submit, so we get responses back. And we can see these responses in several different ways. We can see this in a summary of all the questions. We can see how many people got it right, how many people overall out of everyone who's answered this quiz. We've got questions, so we can view it one by one of each of the questions and see what everyone's answered, or individual, so we can view each individual quiz the whole way through and see what people's answers have come back. We can also print this information, but more importantly, we can export this to an Excel spreadsheet by clicking this Sheets button here and click Create, and you'll see that this is instantly exported to Google Sheets. So this is a really nice way of storing the information that I'm getting back for this quiz. It's for recording and for validation purposes in the future. So once I'm done filling out my quiz, I can go back to my classwork. I don't have to do anything, it automatically saves. And again, I can schedule, I can set a due date, I can add it to a topic, and then I can click assign, and this will assign this. And we'll then see it again in our stream. And us as a teacher can see how many have handed in, how many have been assigned. We'll also get a list of all our pupils down the left and be able to see what they've answered and who's answered this quiz. Now the last time we can add is an assignment. So this may be an existing worksheet that you have that you want your pupils to fill out. So I'm going to do this one as the water cycle worksheet. Now this allows us to use existing stuff that we already have that we want our pupils to fill out. Instructions, again, please complete. And we can add. I'm going to add a file. I go to recent and use my test document again. But this would be whatever worksheet or whatever you wanted them to complete. And we've got several different options here. So if we were just going to write out a synopsis of what we wanted them to do, and then they'd go off and create another document and then submit that back, we'd leave it as pupils can view the file. We've then got students can edit the file. So if we wanted all of our pupils in our classroom to collaborate in one document and write loads of things in that one document and all work together, then we can put students can edit the file. Remember, we can also set this to specific students. So we could say that group 1 are going to be doing a water cycle worksheet, and students can edit the file and they're all going to work on one sheet together. Brilliant for pupil collaborative work. Or we can use make a copy for each student. And the way I describe this is like printing off 30 or 25 copies of a worksheet and handing them individually out to the pupils, and then they hand in a completed version of that worksheet. So if you want them to record individual responses and have those come back, then you're going to use make a copy for each student. That'll make a copy for each one of them that will store in your classroom folder and also in their classroom folder. And that'll then give you information straight back of who's handed it in. You'll be able to see their individual responses. Again, we've got our points. I'm going to put this as unmarked and I'll show you why. Due date, we set when we want this due in for. Again, we add our topic. And then we've got plagiarism. So we can check this document against the web and against other documents to see if anyone has copied and pasted or information off of there as well. Again, we can schedule, save this as a draft or assign. I'm going to go ahead and assign this now. And then what will happen, as I've got this on make a copy for each student, is they will then go into their water cycle worksheet and they will click their document and it will create a copy for them. They can then start editing it, and then once they're done, they can literally click hand in and we'll get a notification to say that pupil's handed that in. As teachers, we will see this screen. And under here where it says no students yet, we'll see a box with each of the students and each of the documents they're working in. So we can click in and view these documents as they're working on it and see how they're getting on. See what they've wrote, see if they've made a good start. We can use that commenter feature to put some extra comments on there and say, this is a great start, or, whoa, slow down and have a think about this. Maybe you're going off on the wrong tangent here. And we can also see in the left-hand column all of our pupils that have handed this in with a tick next to their name. So this gives us a really nice way of reviewing what's been handed in, seeing what pupils are currently working on, and also giving them some guidance as and when they're working on it to push them in the right direction. Now that covers everything that we can do from a material assignment, quiz assignment, question, and reusing posts and topics under here. And this is the basis of using Classroom. We're going to push out work using these different tools depending on what we want to push out, and our pupils are going to hand it back into us. We're going to use the stream as a place where we can see work that's due in, that we can see active work that's gone on, and also use this as a channel of communication between us and our pupils, and also our pupils to our pupils. And we've also got the Google Meet link where we can use this to come in and do face-to-face meetings with our pupils, or if we're in a blended learning scenario where we want just 2 pupils to come in, they can click that link, join the Google Meet when we are already teaching in the classroom. So it's a really nice place. All we got to do is direct our pupils to classroom.google.com, get them to sign in, and everything they need is in this one location, which makes it really easy for them. Another couple tabs we got across the top is the People tab. Now this will show us all of our students in our classroom. This will also give us the ability to add extra teachers to our classroom. So if we wanted to add a TA in, or in the case of the last lockdown where we saw that teachers were chopping and changing between classrooms and we needed other teachers to cover our work, we can invite them into here and they can give us a little hand and they can post and comment and review work as well with us. All we do is press this little plus symbol here, type the email address of the teacher that we want to add and send it, and they will get a notification in their classroom list back here saying, do you want to become a teacher of this classroom? And they will press accept, hopefully. If we now go back to our Apollo Academy, I just want to cover that mark section. So you have the ability to set points on each of the quizzes that are sent out. And those points can then be translated into marks if you add mark categories. This is very difficult if you're new to Google G Suite because you don't necessarily know how many times you're going to set assignments, how many they're going to be worth. So it's very hard to actually gauge how many points you're going to assign to each category. So for most of the time, I say to teachers to leave that as unmarked and to carry on using your standard marking scheme and not to use this built-in marking one unless you're really specific on how many points you're going to be issuing and how many totals and how that's going to break into grades on here. But most of the time, you're quite happy going to go in and review it and write your comments on there and stuff like that. Now that covers all of the Google Key apps, Google Classroom, and Google Slides. And this should help you get up and running with this and using it for blended learning and distance learning. There's loads of resources available on Google. So if you need any help with this, or on YouTube, you can find other videos that go deeper into other parts of this. And this should get you up and running and being able to use this in both scenarios. Thank you very much, and until next time, speak to you soon. Bye bye.